Show me your onboarding plan and I'll show you your apprentice retention rates. In this video, I'm going to walk through an apprentice onboarding process from day 1 through to week 4 that really makes a difference in how your apprentice feels about your business, how supported they feel, how confident they feel, and how valuable they feel from day 1. I always advocate that an apprenticeship is a job first, so they should be treated at onboarding just as any new employee would. However, the difference comes in that this may be their first impression of the world of work. They're going to have very little knowledge about expectations or where to go, who to speak to, how to act on that first day. So the onboarding process is so crucial. A shaky start can absolutely wreck confidence, whereas a smooth onboarding sets the apprentice up for success. So there's a balance to get right. If you treat them like an experienced hire, then the likelihood is you'll overwhelm them. But if you treat them like a student, then you're going to under-prepare them for the real world of work. Today, I want to provide a simple structure that will help you do both. Support them properly, but set them up so they become a well-rounded employee. Day 1 is about setting the tone. So this is all about how you welcome them, not about productivity levels or getting them stuck into their role from the off. This is about making sure they understand your protocols when it comes to health and safety, reporting lines, knowing who's who. Introduce them to the whole team because then they feel part of something. If you're not doing this properly from day 1, they'll leave and think, is this actually somewhere I want to be? And I can see myself growing. So here's your day 1 checklist. First, prepare before they arrive. So make sure they've got a workstation set up. Make sure that they've got PPE. Make sure they've got logins and access to anything they may need, rather than being in a fluster when they're there. Make sure you've got your induction pack ready, whether that's printed or in a slide deck. And make sure that you've got that scheduled for the right people. Second, structure the welcome. So be really clear on who's who their manager is, who their mentor is, who they can go to if something feels off. Then map out the basics, start times, finish times, break, how to clock in, how to get themselves set up when they arrive. What does good look like within their first week? Remember, this might be their first ever job, so don't assume that they know anything and really strip it back and give them the information they're going to need. So third, cover off safety and safeguarding. Do a proper health and safety induction, set clear boundaries and go through your compliance processes. If they're under 18, add extra clarity around supervision and set really clear guidelines. This is not only going to protect the apprentice, but it's also going to protect your business. And finally, end day 1 with a 10-minute check-in. Ask these questions. What felt clear today? What felt confusing? What questions have you got? Do this somewhere that's confidential but comfortable and someone with their mentor nearby. This gives you an indication of their confidence, communication style, but it also allows you to tweak the next 4 weeks so that you're delivering an onboarding process that's really tailored to that individual as opposed to a broad script. After day 1, we move into week 1, and week 1 is all about building confidence and increasing exposure. What that means is that you're introducing the apprentice to the business, but gradually. So they're not feeling overwhelmed, but actually they're starting to build up a true understanding of how all these pieces start to fit together. If you throw them in too fast, they'll get overwhelmed. And when they're overwhelmed, they'll do what most of us do, which is nod along, say we're fine, and just act like everything's okay. What this causes longer term is an environment in which they're not comfortable asking questions. They don't want to put their hand up and say, I don't know something. And as time progresses, there's even less chance that they're going to pull back and say, can we go through this again? On the other hand, if you under-challenge them, then they could disengage. And actually, they look at it and think, how do I fit in here? And what's my role within this team? So your goal in week 1 is balance, supported, but still stretched. Here's your week 1 checklist. First, assign a named mentor, not just somebody to keep an eye on them, but somebody that's already been briefed, that understands what their role really means, and someone who's got the patience, the communication style, and the empathy to really take an apprentice from 0 through to success. You need someone that's committed to this journey. Second, set a 30-day expectation. So in simple terms, tell them by the end of 30 days, I want you to be able to do X. Keep it small and achievable because this gives them a target, but it also gives all of you something to celebrate on day 30. And this is vital in keeping that motivation throughout their journey. Third, Introduce simple and repeatable tasks. In automotive, that may look like workshop prep, supporting with service tasks, tool handling, or observing simple diagnostics. The point here is repetition. The more times they see and do it, the faster they'll settle and the more confidence they'll gain. 4, hold daily 5-minute check-ins. Keep it light, but start to build that relationship so that they've got a safe place to raise concerns. This allows you to spot issues early and also build that psychological safety net. For week 1 goal, they feel useful, they feel supported, and they start to believe, I can do this. By week 2 and week 3, the tone is now set and that confidence should be building. So now it's a case of moving on to momentum. What most employers don't realise is that most dropouts actually happen at week 3. And this is because the apprentice doesn't feel as though they're being seen. They don't feel like they're contributed or they're starting to fit into the wider team. So weeks 2 and 3 are about 3 things: structure, responsibility, and feedback. First, introduce structured off-the-job training. So really make sure that there's protected time scheduled into the rota for their off-the-job hours that doesn't get squeezed out when things get busy. But make sure the apprentice understands why this matters, as this protective time will allow them to become competent faster. It's also really important to ensure that the wider team understand the importance of that protected off-the-job time and that actually it is part of the apprentice's job, not just time off. Second, give measurable responsibility. So this is where you stop saying, help out today, and start giving specific responsibilities. For example, today you're going to complete this task from beginning to end with supervision. This gives them a sense of ownership, it gives you something to assess, and it builds confidence because they can really understand what success looks like. Third, run your first formal review by the end of week 3. Keep it simple. Mentor, manager, apprentice. Cover 3 things like what's going well, what needs to improve, and what one skill can we focus on next week. Giving them this one skill is really important because it shows that you're paying attention, you're invested in their learning journey. It gives them an area of focus, but it also prevents small issues becoming bigger issues further down the line. But before we get into the 4th and final week of onboarding, if you're an automotive employer and you're looking to set up your apprentices for success and create a really strong, structured onboarding without the headache of having to do all this yourself, well, that's exactly what Apprenticeship Central do. We recruit brilliant apprentices, we onboard them, and we set them up with brilliant employers. So if it's something you're interested in, click the link in the description and book a discovery call. So, by week 4, the apprentice shouldn't feel like the new apprentice, but instead they should start to see their future in your business and start to feel like a valued member of the team. Apprentices stay and thrive when they feel 2 things: valued and useful. Here's your week 4 checklist. First, review productivity. What can they do independently? What do they still need support with? Be specific. This is how you spot progress and avoid assumption on both sides. Second, link the work to the apprenticeship standard. So the apprentice needs to understand that the tasks they're doing on the shop floor or in your business, they actually match up and are being done to develop them through their apprenticeship. They're aligned to the skills that they'll need to pass their assessments. And it's meaningful work that has a contribution to the wider business and their apprenticeship. When you make that link clear, it helps them build long-term thinking and makes them take things more seriously. Third, set a 90-day development goal. Make it clear, measurable, and achievable, and one goal is enough. This gives the apprentice a target for the next quarter and creates a clear pathway that they can actually see themselves moving along. And fourth, reconfirm support. Do a mental check-in, review the training dates, and set your next meeting there and then. Don't just let things float or leave them open-ended. When the next checkpoint is already in the diary, the program stays on track without anybody needing to chase it. There's a lot to get right when it comes to running successful apprenticeships, from funding to delivery methods and compliance. And what's important is creating a program that actually is going to tackle the skill shortage and take an apprentice from day 1 right through to successful completion. That's exactly why we created the ultimate guide to apprenticeship. And if you want the end-to-end breakdown, it's on the screen now.